The PGA. The Scottie Scheffler earns his third major championship. His first two were majors. Everyone kind of like thought, oh, he's just a major Masters merchant. Doesn't know how to win any other major. Well, he kind of proved everyone wrong when he went out to the PGA Championship and dominated on Saturday to put himself in position where it wasn't even close on Sunday. What did you think of the whole shebang there, Brandon?
It's funny. I'm so glad that Scotty won because I think he's had a bit of a tougher year. It feels like the Masters was a great example where it felt like it was him or McIlroy the whole time. And then he didn't have a great performance. And I think he I don't know if that weighed on him, but he certainly seemed to regroup and coming into the PGA. I mean, I thought he certainly had a chance to win and I would have put him in my top 5 or top 10 anytime. But I think, the way that he came out on Saturday and really just I don't know what it was, but he looked like he was so much more calm. He was so much more composed. He was hitting shots that I think he would normally have hit, but he maybe hadn't whether it was the first couple of rounds at Quail Hollow or at the Masters. So I think it was fantastic to see him play that way. It was a little scary there as he gets back into a tie in the back nine with John Rahm, but he was able to put it together and never seemed to lose his confidence. So while other guys were falling backwards in that back nine, Scotty continued to push and he was able to grab that huge 5-shot lead. So I'm super excited to see where it goes. And I don't think it's out of the question to see Scotty, maybe get his first US Open this year. I mean, the British is going to be tough because it's such different golf and it usually takes guys a little bit longer to maybe capture that one. But once we get to the US Open later this year, I'm just excited to see where he goes with this because I think he could absolutely go on a run here if he's able to capture, the two other American majors this year. Would be incredible.
So Nike, excellent marketing. They put out an ad right after the PGA Championship, and they put it out. I'm pretty sure it read this. I can't remember exactly word for word, but I'm pretty sure it was like best player in the world, and then guilty. And then in the caption, they put the verdict is in. It was terrific marketing by Nike, and yeah, I mean, we have to remember Scottie Scheffler's also coming off an injury to start the year. I think it was something happened in the kitchen, honestly, around Christmas time that he hurt himself.
But he sliced his hand or something.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting. And then, like the guy's been the number one golfer in the world for 141 weeks, I believe now, which is a really long time in and of itself. And then you go look at his streak compared to Tiger Woods. I have a two-part question, but first one, do you ever think is Scottie Scheffler in a realm of dominance where he can be start to be compared to the dominance that Tiger had over a certain stretch of time?
I mean, he's still, I think, a ways away from that. I think I'd like to see him get over, obviously now he's got 3 majors. If he can get to, say, a number like 6, where he is really starting to now kind of join a more elite company. And I think then you can look at the era that he's played. I mean, everyone would, I think, point to Rory McIlroy and maybe not necessarily the disappointment. He's had a fantastic career, but early on as a younger player, I think people thought he'd have a lot more, not necessarily a lot more, but people thought he would have more majors than he does now. Exactly. And I think that's been something that's obviously a bonus to Scott. He's a little bit younger. He has more time and he's able to, he's already got the 2 Masters, which people have always thought is the hardest one to win. So, if he's able to, like I said, continue to perform well at the majors, pick up, the career Grand Slam at some point, and then maybe win a couple more, I think he's in a great spot to be at least in that group of guys that you usually consider Tiger with, the Jacks and the, the Gary Players, all these guys that have been around forever.
You can even put Rory in that conversation now just because of the career Grand Slam.
I think you can. And the era that he's been able to do it in, like I said, has been obviously the best golf that we've ever seen. And there are so many guys that when you look back, You go to these majors and it feels like 20 to 30 guys could win at any point,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it's such a different feel of golf than 20 years ago when Tiger was dominating. There was definitely a handful of other guys that week to week would compete with him and could, win a given tournament, but it's never been as wide open as it is today. So yeah, if Scottie can continue to have success and play relatively healthy through his, he's probably got a lot of time left. So I
Yeah.
think he
So
can still win a ton of majors. So
yeah. So undoubtedly, Scottie Scheffler is the number one golfer in the world. That's just not a question. He's proved
yeah,
week after week.
yeah.
The thing that people forget, and the thing that I even was found shocking, he looks like he's 45 years old, when in reality the man's only 28. Like
It's
he's
crazy.
he's
Yeah.
just entering his prime of his career
Yeah.
right now, and it's scary to think like what he can end up with. So my last question on Scotty is he the slam dunk favorite? Like, is he guaranteed to be the next one to complete the career grand slam?
Oh, for sure. Like I don't look at the rest of the tour. I mean, I'd have to pull up all the numbers unless there's somebody that I'm forgetting who's just as close with two majors. I mean, I guess Xander Schauffele would be a guy.
Yeah,
He won multiple majors last year,
yeah,
so he's just as close. So maybe he would be the guy. But when you look at the resume in total, I don't think there's anybody else on the tour other than maybe Rory McIlroy and I mean, Brooks Koepka is not even on the tour right now. He would be another guy that I would have expected to win more majors if he didn't,
yeah,
step off to live. So I think, yeah, you look at Scotty right now as the next one. He's going to be the guy for the next 10 to 15 years. Hopefully, he has a strong prime of his career, like you said, and can rattle off, the next, 5 or 6 years. Maybe he can win another 5 or 6 majors, and that would put him in company that we haven't seen since Tiger. And I
yeah.
think it would be an incredible story if the kid from Texas was able to do that because yeah, it's one of those things that felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. He was never the next prodigy. He wasn't like Rory as a kid where he's on TV or doing anything like that. At least not to my knowledge. He went through the NCAA system and he played the way that a lot of these American kids do. So I think it would be great for the game of golf if they had that number one guy who they can trot out and show to the networks and show to the magazines and really bring people back to the game, which I think him and a few other guys are really starting to do anyway. But the better he gets and the more notoriety he gets, it only helps the PGA and the game of golf in general. So
Yeah. So I just have to think like in terms of how many majors he could end up with, I could see it being 15 by the end of his career. Like I know he's only at 3 right now, but like he's only 28 years old and he's just entering the prime of his career. Like he could go on an absolute heater for the next 5 years and rattle off what there's 4 per year, so if you get 20 of them, he could win 8 of those 20 majors and I would not be shocked. Like he is the most dominant golfer there is right now in the PGA. And to go off to Brooks just to go off
Kepka,
the Brooks Kepka,
yeah,
he didn't even make the cut at the
no, I
PGA
know, yeah,
Championship. Like he is on the decline, and for once the number one golfer in the world, I don't think I've ever seen such a downward spiral to being not making cuts at major tournaments. Like it's crazy to think where he's gone in like the last like what 2 years ever since joining Live, maybe 3 years since I can't remember when Live actually started. It was 2 or 3 years ago, and yeah, it's just crazy to think where this has gone for him in those couple of years.